Over the past year, I've been able to represent God better than I think I have throughout my entire 20 years of living. But despite me representing God better than I think I've ever had in my entire life, I still see so many people moving away from the faith, hating God, hating Jesus, and not wanting anything to do with Christianity. As the world continued to move into this place that is just hating and being resentful of God, how do I represent Jesus in the best way possible despite so many people being against everything I'm wanting to represent? Here's my story, and this is how I represent God in a world that hates him. My biggest thing that I choose to do every single day, and it may seem cliche to some people, but it's simply putting a smile on my face. And sometimes I don't always have a smile that I need to put out. Sometimes it's forced. Sometimes I'm not feeling my best and I simply don't want to smile at all. But I understand through countless trial and error and meeting countless different people and having different people talk about me and spread information about me, I've understood that if I'm not smiling, people are going to give out information about me that's usually not that positive. And I've learned that when I continue to smile and just give a positive, I guess, aura or image to me, people can see me in the best way possible. But if I'm always just walking around with a frown on my face and I'm letting my emotions get the best of me, I'm not representing myself or Jesus in the best way possible. The second thing is that I consistently watch what I say. Sometimes I hear that people are always saying that they need to curse or they need to say things in a certain way to relay the passion. I've been watching a lot of David Goggins podcasts recently, and David Goggins says that he needs to curse. And if he doesn't say curse words, then he's not able to give the full emotion behind what he's speaking. But I don't really think that's the case. I think you need to watch your words and watch what you say, because what I've realized is that my speech, the words I say, hold so much weight. And the things I say are always going to be attributed to what I am, what I do, what I think, what I believe, etc. Whether you like it or not, the things you say and the things you do, the outward representations and the things that people take in from you, whether that be the things they see from you, the things they hear from you, anything. People are going to take in information from you, the information that you give them, and make their own idea of what you're going to do next, what you believe in, how you're going to act, and so on. What you say really matters. And I've understood that if I'm constantly speaking negatively about myself, my situation, people are going to have a negative outlook of me. And if I'm always cursing and saying words that everyone else says, saying words that only spike emotions in others, people may think bad about me as well. I want people to think the best way about me as I possibly can, because I know whenever people think about me, there's a chance that they're gonna think about Jesus and the things I believe in, because that's such a big part of my life. The third thing is that I simply try my best to interact with people in a way that Jesus would interact with them. What do I mean by that? I mean that I don't ever try to condemn people or try to think that I'm better than someone. I know a lot of Christians struggle with simply treating people that are homosexual or people that look a certain way or anything with respect. Sometimes it's really hard to respect and love people or show love to people when you know they're sinning or they're doing something that's entirely against the things you believe or is so different from you. A lot of people like to say, I'll love you, but I won't like you. Or they may say they love someone but act a certain way. And I think that's so wrong. I don't care whether you're purple, green, blue, whether you're gay, straight, asexual, whatever you are. I try to treat people in the best way possible. Because when I look back to Jesus and the way that he lived, he hung out and preached the gospel. He shared his message to people that the other people did not agree with at all. As a Christian, you're going to have Christians tell you that you don't need to be around certain people. And yes, I understand that you need to keep your friends and keep your romantic relationships on an equal level with you in terms of faith and what you believe. But the people you see in passing and the people you probably won't see too often, understand that you can make a lasting impact on them no matter what stage of life they're in. And you're no better than they are. Whether it's a homeless person, a gay person, anything you can think of, whatever it may be, no matter if they're in a state that's entirely different from you, watch how you interact with them and try to interact with them in a way that Jesus interacts with them. And if you want to learn more about the way Jesus interacted with people, simply read the gospel, read the Bible, see how Jesus lived, and practice the fruits of the Spirit. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, so I need to memorize them, but surely you can go look them up and know what I'm talking about. Those three things truly help me. And here's the ways I practically apply them every single day. Recently, I've tried to get to know people and try to present myself in the best way I possibly can without entirely saying, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, or putting it up front, hey, I'm a Christian. The reason I do that is because I want people to see my fruit, see the way I'm acting before they know that I'm trying to represent Christ. Because I understand that sometimes I don't act my best. Sometimes I don't make the best decisions. And sometimes I need to get better at what I'm doing. And I understand that if I say I'm Christian up front, people may hold me to a very, very high standard. But if I continue to first, before I say I'm a Christian, do my best, and sometimes my best is still nowhere near perfect. My best is simply me trying my best to be nice, be kind, be patient with others, practice self-control and the other fruits of the Spirit. Simply try to act as much as close to Jesus' perfect example as I possibly can. Continue to act like that, and I understand that I'm going to fall, and embrace my failures, embrace the fact that I'm imperfect, and I'm simply a human that's not perfect at all, but I'm simply trying to live by a perfect example. Recently, I've met this girl in one of my classes here in college, and I went to get ice cream with her, and I didn't really say that I was a Christian. I just tried to be a great person. And eventually we sat down for ice cream, and she had a cross on her neck, and I asked her, what does that cross mean to you? And the answer she gave me was really beautiful. It's that she said, this cross is a way for me to really carry my cross daily, honoring the fact that Jesus carried that cross himself. And I heard that, and it really made me smile, and it made me really appreciate her answer. And I got to know more about her faith. And she said she's more about actions and not words, because she sees too many people nowadays say that they're Christian and they act a certain way that isn't necessarily Christian. And that's what I mean by saying that's what I mean by not saying you're a Christian up front. Don't simply say you're a Christian and then let your actions prove people otherwise, or prove that otherwise, because that's a hard weight to carry. If you say you're Christian and you're representing Jesus, Jesus was perfect. He lived a sinless life, and as humans, we're going to continue to sin and continue to do things that aren't necessarily Christ-like. Continue to let your actions speak louder than your words. Understand that you're going to fail, but let your good always outweigh your bad. Try your best to live like Jesus, and don't necessarily say, Jesus, 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 I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. Let your fruit, let your words, let your actions, let the things you do, maybe not your words, sorry, I didn't mean that. Let the things you do speak louder than any word you could say. Because although your words hold weight, if you simply say you're going to punch someone, but if you actually punch them, they're going to feel your fist hitting their face. They're not going to feel your words hitting them. Understand that your actions have power. So let your actions tell people that you're Christian. Not necessarily tell them that you're Christian and then fall and do all these things that may not be Christ-like. Continue to live your best life and live representing Jesus in everything you do, and then let people know the reason you act the way you act is because you're a Christian. Now, you don't necessarily need to be a Christian to act good, but if you let people know that some of the things you do, some of the best things you do, some of the best love and expression you show is because of Jesus and what you've learned from him, that can truly build your faith in a great way. And it can let people understand that you're not perfect. And you want your fruit and you want your actions to speak louder than any words you say. And that's something I've been doing lately. Not telling people I'm a Christian, but showing it. And then if the opportunity comes up, say, hey, by the way, I'm Christian. And by the way, the reason I act the way I act sometimes is because I try my best to represent Jesus. But I understand I'm imperfect. I'm no better than you, the person I'm talking to, the person on the side of the street, or anyone. I'm simply an imperfect person living by a perfect example. as you continue to go into the world will continue to push you away from your faith and the things you believe in. The world is going further and further into an area that is so against God and Christianity. And some of the people out in the world trying to spread the gospel and evangelize, they're getting hurt, even killed, and simply they're getting pushed away, because no matter how much you preach the fact that Jesus wants to love people and he wants to spread kindness, patience, self-control, all these things with people, they're still not going to want to hear it, because people have their own God that they make up in their minds, and the God of the Christian faith is simply something they don't want to identify with. What do you do when people want to identify with their own God? Represent your God, Jesus, in the best way you possibly can. The words you say, the things you do, your everyday life can represent Jesus. Understand that every single action you have is based off of what you're grounded on, and that's Jesus. And whether you like it or not, you're always going to be being watched. People are always going to watch to every little thing you say, every little movement you make. They're going to think, oh, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this if he's a Christian? People hate that because people understand that, hey, I'm never going to be perfect. But people are going to think that whether you like it or not. No matter if you hate the way people think or not, people are always going to think, if you're a Christian, why are you doing this? And if you know that people are always going to think this, always try your absolute best to make your actions, your words, everything you do that you have control of, make them good things. Make them things that are similar to the way Jesus would have acted. Learn from his example and the life he lived, and let that be poured out in the way you act every single waking breath. Understand that people are going to think about you based on what you do. If you want to represent God in a world that hates him so much, represent him well. Because too many people, they have bad experiences with churches and people people fail to realize that you can't rely on people if you want to get to know Jesus and want to represent Christianity or God or love God or feel God's love in your life. You can't rely on people because people are imperfect, and people are never, ever going to be perfect to the degree that Jesus was. They really need to look towards Jesus. And sometimes that's very, very hard for people and non-believers. Understand that people need a mediator to get them to Jesus. They need a representatory person, and that could be you. You could be that little stepping stool for them to get to Jesus. Understand that you're always that stepping stool. And sometimes you can make your stepping stool so jagged and hard to step on, and people may try to step on you as a stepping stool and they'll fall off because you're not acting the right way. Continue to be a sturdy, firm stepping stool for people to get to Jesus. And you will see how people's lives start to change because of you. And your life will start to get a little bit better because you're representing Jesus well. And I've learned from my own life and the way I've acted consistently for the past year, and hopefully to be acting this way in the future, that when I act like Jesus and people can get towards Jesus closer, they can get closer to God and have a closer relationship with Jesus because of me, my life just gets a little bit better because I'm continuing to practice positivity, love, patience, kindness, whatever it may be, those fruits of the Spirit. If you live those out daily, you will see how they just mold your life into something that is great, something that's closer to Jesus because you're living by his perfect example. And if you do things according to that perfect example, you'll get closer and closer to that life that Jesus lived. And I understand that we'll never get to that life and that degree of life Jesus lived because he's sinless, he's perfect. But that is the simplest, most confusing, and most beautiful thing as a Christian. We continue to live by that perfect example, even though we know we'll never get there. It's better to live by that example. Try to reach that perfect place that Jesus was in, even though we know deep in our minds and our souls that we'll never get there. But let me tell you today that practicing these things and living like Jesus more and more each and every day, it makes everyday life better. And I promise you that living by that perfect example, even though you know you'll never get there, is far better than living like any other example you can ever live by. Because people, like I said, we're imperfect. If you try to live by the example of a millionaire, a star athlete, or someone, it doesn't matter who it is. You'll always fall short and you'll never feel complete. Continue to live by Jesus' example. Learn from him. Learn from his life. Try to act in a way that's representatory of him, even if you don't feel your best. Even if you're having the worst day ever, try your best to influence others. Because if you're having your worst day ever and you're not representing Jesus well, people may not know you're having your worst day ever. And if you're being a bad person, a negative person, people may not know the things that are going on. I understand as humans, we have emotions that sometimes get the best of us. But if you could push past your emotions and let God take over, let God work through you and the things you've learned about Jesus and the way he lived, and let that be poured out in the way you live, despite if you're having the worst day ever. And you continue to give out positivity and love and all these other things, people will think the best about you and they'll wonder why you act the way you act. And then they'll learn in time that Christianity, Jesus is the way you act, and that is how you represent Jesus, despite the world and people being so imperfect and people pushing people away from God. You can be that stepping stool to get someone closer to Christ. I hope you were able to learn something from this video. Continue to practice anything you're able to see and learn and hear from the words I spoke out of my mouth. Hopefully you can continue to practice these things every single day and be a better representation of Jesus, even when the world and everyone around you seems like they don't want nothing to do with Jesus. One of my favorite quotes I've ever heard online is that someone said, "Sometimes in life, we will be the only Bible people ever get to read." Think about that. Think about the fact that you may be the only Bible someone ever gets to read in their life. Represent the Bible, represent Jesus well every single day. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you learned anything from this in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a blessed day and see you next time.